Your Excellencies, past district governors, deputy district governor, past deputy district governors, assistant governors, presidents, fellow Rotarians, dignitaries, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It is with great pleasure that I welcome you all to this event entitled Visualizing the Cryptocurrency Ecosystem, organized by Top Guinnesses and Aspelia Rotary Club of Nicosia. I would like, as president of Aspelia, I would like to extend special thank you and gratitude to Top Guinnesses, in particular Ms. Elena Tanu, for facilitating this event on a voluntary basis. Top Guinnesses is the largest tour operator in Cyprus and had its own chartered flights to all corners of the world. And its high quality service is unparalleled on the island. Aspelia Rotary Club has always prided itself in promoting high caliber speakers that speak on topics of global significance. Today's event is no exception. The topic of cryptocurrency will be addressed by two very able speakers who will shed light on some of the less known aspects of this global phenomenon. We have had 182 registered audience for this event. That speaks volumes. I look forward to very illuminating lectures. Now I would like to ask Deputy District Governor in Cyprus, Ms. Katerina Kalava, to say a few words.
Your Excellency, past district governors, protocol observed, fellow Rotarians and guests. First of all, I would like to thank Top Guinnesses for hosting our meeting and all of you for being with us today, especially our speakers. In February this year, we celebrated the 116th birthday of Rotary International, when Rotary founder Paul Harris formed one of the world's first service organizations. The 1.2 million Rotarians in 220 countries are people of action, driven by a desire to create opportunities, strengthen communities, and find solutions to the tough challenges, wars and pandemics that affect people around the world through the years. The eradication of polio is Rotary's signature project, and now we join the fight against COVID-19 pandemic. Since 1988, Rotary and its partners have spent $2.6 billion in the fight against polio and supported people worldwide with thousands of other projects. Despite the pandemic, we continued our charity work and voluntary action that started in Cyprus in 1938, when the first Rotary Club was established. Rotarians and Rotaractors in 20 Rotary and 10 Rotary clubs all over Cyprus coexist in harmony, united under the Rotary banner, join efforts and accomplish together great projects through global grants that benefit both communities, such as the Karaiskakio project with a total donation of $537,000 and the COVID-19 project in excess of $150,000. 20 Rotary clubs joined forces and donated ICU beds and medical apparatus to the Nicosia General Hospital and Kyrenia Hospital. Our environmental project this year is the Cyprus Pollinator Project that was initiated by the Rotary and Rotary clubs of Nicosia Aspelia and joined by 11 Rotary and 4 Rotary other clubs. The project's leader is Professor Manfred Lang, and the project is supported by the Cyprus Institute of Technology. I'm proud to present to you today the Cyprus Pollinator Project video. So let us start with the video.
Pollinator Project of Rotary Cyprus. Get involved and have fun. Nature offers us incredible beauty and places for relaxation and pleasure. Yet nature offers us much more. However, for plants to grow fruit, vegetables and herbs, they need to be pollinated. But what is pollination? Pollination means plant reproduction. The vast majority of plants rely on animals for pollination. Animals such as ants, bats, bees, beetles, birds, butterflies, flies. These animals, or pollinators as we call them, feed on plants. These plants are called pollinator plants. Sadly, pollinator plants are in decline, threatened by environmental pollution and the ever-increasing use of chemicals in farming and gardening. As pollinator plants are in decline, so are many of the pollinators. Also, the climate changes in Cyprus, with hotter, longer-lasting summers and less rainfall, threaten the pollinator plants and thus the pollinators. Remember, 1 out of every 3 bites of food we eat is there because of pollinators. Fewer pollinators means less healthy, less delicious food for us all. What should we do about this? The Pollinator Project of Rotary Cyprus is one answer. Get involved and get started. Create your own pollinator spot or pollinator garden, and better yet, get others involved as well. What are pollinator spots? Well, they come in all forms, shapes and sizes. Pollinator boxes can be placed on a balcony or the terrace of a house. Pollinator spots can be set up in a private garden or a park. Why not involve schools and have them create their own pollinator gardens? One could even convince a whole community to create a pollinator park. There are just a few simple rules to follow. Choose a variety of native plants that provide nectar and pollen throughout the growing season. Plant in groups of diverse plants to increase pollination efficiency. A clean, reliable source of water is essential to provide drinking and bathing opportunities for pollinators. In addition, for pollinator gardens, provide bare spaces for ground nesting bees. Leave areas of dead wood and leaf litter for other insects. If we all pitch in and start creating pollinator spots, we'll have fun observing pollinators grow, and also we'll be helping to maintain an intact environment in Cyprus for healthy and delicious food to grow. Thank you for getting involved.
Thank you very much, Deputy District Governor. It is now my pleasure to introduce the speakers. First speaker is Mr. Emilianos Ellinas. He's an attorney and a member of the Cyprus Bar Association. He holds an LLB from the University of Buckingham, and LLM from Gould School of Law, University of Southern California, as well as MSc in Entrepreneurship and Innovation from Marshall School of Business at USC. His law school's master thesis in 2014 envisioned future legal developments and raised pertinent issues on cryptocurrency policy, regulation, and compliance. Upon graduating from business school, he founded White Coat Healthcare, a healthcare technology company that provided affordable house calls to patients. In early 2018, Emilianos launched a cryptocurrency-focused US hedge fund that makes investments in digital assets as well as early-stage crypto startup. Mr. Emilianos Ellinas, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much for the intro and the invitation to speak. I also want to extend my thank yous to everyone that has tuned in to this session. I would firstly want to express that whatever we discuss today is not financial advice, it's just my personal opinion, and you should always do your own research. Today, I'm not here to persuade you about the value of Bitcoin. That time has long passed. I'm here, though, to probably guide you through acquiring, or let's say accumulating, the best form of money that our society has right now, today. If you still need to be persuaded, it means that you probably haven't done your research. This is not 2010. There's an abundance of information online for everyone that has interest in this topic to go ahead and get deep into the rabbit hole and understand what Bitcoin truly is. What I want to do today is hopefully provide you with thought-provoking ideas that may spark further interest into the topic. Many people see the price of Bitcoin and think that, oh wow, this is going fast real quick, but they do not understand what drives the price going up. If I switch the debate into Bitcoin's price not actually going up, but their dollar or euro value depreciating, they makes them very, very interested to learn more. Because if we switch the narrative into inflation and the currencies being debased by the constant printing of new money, then the understanding of why Bitcoin's price is going higher and higher is more easily understood. Another thing that I wanted to express is that most people don't understand that when they hand their money out to banks, that they do not actually own that money at the time that they send it to the bank. Their bank account money is just an IOU from the bank that the bank promises to return if requested. But good luck with withdrawing a large amount of money without being scrutinized. What we're seeing and what I'm seeing with the area that I'm working with is millennials and Generation Z are looking for ways to get out of the legacy system. The legacy system has been very, very, I would say, not welcoming to the younger generation. And the younger generation is not going to sit around with arms closed, waiting for them to be accepted. What they are doing, though, is looking out there for ways to be able to have monetary freedom and expression. And the way that they're doing it today is through the crypto markets. As an example, if in the United States, if you do not have a credit score, then it means you have no access to the credit system. You may not be able to open a bank account. You may not be able to take a loan. All those are very, very important. And when you block an entire generation from doing so, then that generation is going to find ways to get around that. So what Bitcoin allows is access to a monetary system that anyone, anywhere, anytime, without discrimination, is able to participate in. Today is probably the largest redistribution of wealth in our century. And if that is not enough for you to pay attention, I don't know what is. I'll give you some of my earlier experiences with Bitcoin. It all started in 2013 when I was traveling to visit one good friend of mine in Madrid. And I was flying from Athens, where I was working at the moment, to Madrid. And we spent the entire trip sitting on our laptops and studying Bitcoin instead of exploring Madrid. It was that fascinating back in 2013 to learn about Bitcoin, at least for us two. And it was even more crazy that we were both traveling. He was traveling to the United States and I was traveling back to Athens when the banking crisis in Cyprus happened. And we ended up back in the US and in Athens with no bank accounts, our money frozen, we couldn't use our debit cards, we had no cash on us, and we were like stranded. And we had no way of getting money out of the system, just to be able to buy food and survive. So at that moment, it became very clear that Bitcoin, even at that moment, would have had a very, very important function. And we saw that in the price. At the time, Bitcoin was trading at $17, and the price in that span of 2 weeks went to $240. That was a light bulb moment for me and for my friends. And that's when we decided to get deep into understanding Bitcoin and the implications that I would have for the world. Another thing that is always at the back of my mind is that Cyprus, and I'm sure most of you here have some connections to Cyprus, is an occupied island. We all know that we have a situation where anything at any time can happen, and whatever you feel that it's safe today might not be tomorrow. And that includes your wealth. So I'm sure people in this chat session have lost everything in the past. And by holding Bitcoin and by knowing how to use Bitcoin, you actually have something like an insurance policy for the future. It's not only about making more money, it's also about safeguarding your existing wealth. So briefly, what is Bitcoin? Because some people have a very narrow understanding of what Bitcoin is. I'll try to explain it concisely, but also give you a wide spectrum of features that you could apply to Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is a non-sovereign, hard-capped supply, global, immutable, decentralized, digital store of value. And like I said before, it is an insurance policy against monetary and fiscal policy irresponsibility from central banks and governments globally. So what does it do? It promotes transparency and monetary freedom for everyone. And another narrative that I want to dispel today, and some people might not like it, is the narrative that people put blockchain above Bitcoin. And I would reverse that in an instant. It's Bitcoin, not blockchain. The value lies in Bitcoin, not the blockchain. A blockchain, that I'm sure it's a word that you've heard many times before, is just a fancy word for an expensive ledger that stores transactions. It can be done with many other cheaper methods on AWS, servers online, and you do not require a blockchain to do most of the functions that you think today. But Bitcoin that uses a blockchain is what's innovative about it. So what I would ask the group of people that we have here today, because I'm sure we have some very, very important people from Cyprus and from abroad, is to pay attention and try and change things in terms of innovation and not regulation. What I've seen in Cyprus mostly and some other parts of the world is that we concentrate on regulating before innovating. And that has a very detrimental effect to how people look in something as revolutionary as crypto, or how you affect the new generation into getting involved with something like crypto. A few ideas that may help Cyprus and other nations that want to allow this innovation to happen is to have clear and concise legal framework and attract major companies in the space without scaring them. And what we have in our country is mostly our leaders scaring people out of this instead of educating and helping them safeguard their wealth. I've experienced many issues in opening bank accounts, and I've seen that with so many other friends of mine that want to start their businesses on the island, and they're being turned away. They're being turned away without doing anything wrong, just because their company has any involvement with crypto, they're automatically being denied. So they're being treated as criminals without even being accepted into having a bank account. It makes no sense at all. So that really worries me. So we should start thinking about ways of giving access to people, not denying them access. And you'll see that the economy and new companies are going to come, and everything is going to flourish when you allow innovation to happen. What worries me also is that people usually want to be spoon-fed with information about what to do and how to treat their wealth. And what needs to happen is everyone, even people in this chat session, that they take the responsibility of owning and managing their own wealth. And Bitcoin allows you to do so. One thing that I'm always hearing is the narrative of, but Bitcoin is only being used by criminals and people that want to do something weird or wrong. And my rebuttal to that in the past was that, yes, obviously, we have people that will do wrong things and illegal things with anything, with the dollar, with the euro, across all sections of society. You don't wait for Bitcoin to do something criminal. And another thing that they do not understand is that doing transactions on Bitcoin on a public ledger, it's there for everyone to see. So the authorities and anyone looking on the blockchain will be able to spot any illegal activity forever, because it's an immutable ledger and it doesn't go away. So if you want to do a crime, Bitcoin is the worst way to to do that. So mostly criminals are going to be using banking and cash to do their criminal activities. So that's my intro about Bitcoin. I wanted to concentrate also on the question at hand that we raised for this panel. So is it a good time to buy Bitcoin? People think about now, and people think about making money quickly. What I would say is that you need to think about Bitcoin more broadly. You need to understand before you enter this world, what do you want to achieve here? What your expectations are. Your strategy will be different. If you are a trader, you will have a different strategy. If you're a long-term investor, you have a different strategy. Or if you just want to be a self-sovereign individual. So you need to decide what you are before you enter this ecosystem. And on top of that, you need to understand that markets, especially markets that are small, like Bitcoin's market, is going to function as any other market at its infancy. So Even Amazon, if you go back in history, you will see that the way that it grew in bubbles, in small bubbles. So it went up really, really fast and then crashed 90% down. That happened 2 or 3 times in Amazon's history. People don't remember that. People just remember where Amazon is today. So the same way, we're going to see Bitcoin grow and keep growing. And this happens in bubbles. Some people call it bubbles. I call it cycles. And Bitcoin and other crypto mostly function in 4-year cycles. So once you decide what your strategy is and you set your expectations, the next thing you need to do is avoid scams. So make sure you avoid scams and never invest money you cannot afford to lose. If you do that, I think Bitcoin is of great value to anyone, even if you're a short-term trader and just want to experience how it is to trade and make money with crypto, or if you want to set money aside for when worse times come. So I would also want to mention here that if you have any questions, I'll be checking the questions that you send through the Q&A, and I'll be choosing and answering questions that you may have on the topic. So let me look at what people are sending here. So we have a question from Theophanis Theodoulou. He's asking, what can people do that want to participate in the new financial system of Bitcoin if they do not have access to internet? And how do the risks of getting hacked for people who are less technologically developed play a part in the usage of this financial solution? So I would say that the only thing that you need to participate is the internet. And the internet over the past few years is accessible to more than 5 billion people on this planet through their smartphones. Obviously, Bitcoin is not going to surpass the internet in terms of usage. So we need the internet to be able to participate in most anything in today's society. So if you actually have an internet connection, that's all you need to participate with Bitcoin. So the risk of getting hacked, I would say here that it takes maybe 20 minutes to learn about how to secure your crypto assets. You can do so in multiple ways. If you're afraid of holding your own crypto and you think that you are not technologically adept or you don't want to spend the time to learn how to do it, then you can use a reputable exchange where you buy your crypto and store it there. That is the most unsafe way to do it, but is the easiest way for people to get started. Once they get started and they feel more comfortable, then they can learn how to take that Bitcoin out of the exchange and hold it in their own personal wallets. And those wallets are hardware devices. They're just USBs, so they're USB sticks. And those wallets hold your keys. They don't actually hold your Bitcoin. So it's the safest way to hold your crypto. Another way is to find a custodian. There are other custodians, if you hold large amounts of crypto, that they will take your crypto and use several safer methods of securing your crypto. What are the advantages of Cyprus in regards to blockchain ecosystem versus Malta and other EU countries? Frankly enough, there are no advantages in Cyprus in terms of blockchain versus Malta. The biggest problem is banking. If you do not have banking, there's no way to start anything. So I wouldn't say there's any advantage. If you cannot start, then whatever else regulation that we put in front of the people makes no sense. I would like to start the conversation from the central bank and then go down to commercial banks before we regulate the space anymore. If we actually want innovation, that's where we should start. So is there a Bitcoin community in Cyprus and details? I think it's a very closed community. There's nothing big other than some social channels that I've seen. But George, that's going to be speaking later. He has more information about that. Since I live in Los Angeles, I'm not fully aware of the crypto community in Cyprus, but George has more info about that. So let me see. So Elon Musk made some comments the other day about not accepting Bitcoin for his Tesla cars. Another thing that I forgot to mention is that people think that Bitcoin is being used and held by criminals, but what we've seen in the recent past is actual NASDAQ and other public listed companies acquiring and holding Bitcoin in their balance sheets. Do you think that Tesla and other big companies like them would not do their due diligence and acquire an asset when they think that criminals are involved? No, they wouldn't. So it's important to understand who's buying Bitcoin as well. And once you do that, the narrative is going to change dramatically. So why did Elon Musk change his narrative about accepting Bitcoin for his Tesla cars? So you need to understand why he would make such a switch in a few days. So Tesla is being funded and is getting grants from the government for being environmental friendly. So there's tax credits for carbon emissions that Tesla uses to basically function. And it has been doing this for a decade now. And that's probably something that the regulators decided to put some pressure on Elon Musk. And that's why he was probably forced to make that statement. And even so, he said that he's still holding his Bitcoin. He's not selling. Thank you, George, for your nice comments. So the environmental implications of using Bitcoin, that's a question. And I think that is the narrative that is going to be the most prominent as we go ahead into the bull market. So this bull market is going to run for the duration of this year. And the biggest fight that people that understand Bitcoin that they need to fight is the environmental implications narrative. Bitcoin is using mostly 75% of energy being used to mine Bitcoin is renewable energy. And you need to understand that miners are going to be looking for the cheapest, most affordable, renewable energy to power their miners. It's not a good idea for miners to be using coal to mine Bitcoin. And over time, we're going to see that switch to more and more renewables because those are the cheaper forms of energy, either solar, which is not the best for Bitcoin, but hydro. Hydro is right now the most efficient way to mine Bitcoin. So over time, Bitcoin might be a method to promote the usage of renewables. And another thing that I've been seeing is wasted energy being used to mine Bitcoin. So flared gas that has been wasted in the past is now being used to mine Bitcoin. And that actually helps the environment instead of making it worse. So how do you move from crypto back to fiat? You just sell and move the funds back to your bank account. So any exchange that you may use, the same way that you're sending them your fiat money, you can do the reverse and send your fiat money back to your bank account. So here, thank you about asking about the fund. What I wanted to say is that the fund that I manage is for high net worth individuals, accredited investors only. And if you're an accredited investor, I can share more details with you out of this call. And I will share also my email in text in the Q&A so that you can take it and email me if you want to be in touch with me. So I wanted to ask if we have more time, or is
actually we can have a few more minutes, 3 to 4 minutes. We have to wrap up for the next speaker. Yes, please.
Excellent. So there are a few questions about tax implications. I wouldn't want to touch that. If you have questions about taxes in Cyprus, you should ask your CPA or your tax attorney, because that is very different from person to person. But the good thing about Cyprus, and hopefully it stays that way, because as I said, we need to promote innovation, is there's no capital gains tax regarding crypto trading in Cyprus. If you're not aware of capital gains tax, it's a way to tax gains in the United States. In Cyprus, I'm only aware of capital gains tax being applied to property, real estate. So I see a question about a method that retail could use to actually start investing in crypto. I would divert that question to George. He's going to be giving you a very, very good explanation on how any of you can start and participate in the crypto ecosystem. So let me see. Thank you, Neri, for your nice comments. Hopefully I answered your question about the carbon footprint. Obviously, it's a new technology and it started one way, but I think the way that it's going to be changed in the future in terms of renewable energy being used is going to change people's opinions about Bitcoin. So last question I want to answer is about, there's a question about Mario's here about stable coins and how do you treat these investments in terms of volatility. So as a final comment on the price of Bitcoin, where it's going and what to expect in terms of volatility is if you do not feel comfortable with being part of a volatile market as it grows, you should not participate in. As I said, you need to only use money that you can afford to lose. And if it's something that worries you every day and night, and if you want to treat this as a get rich quick scheme, then it's not going to work quite well for you. Because the markets are volatile, and I expect even more volatility this year. And as I mentioned earlier, Bitcoin works in cycles. And now we're at the end of the cycle. We're at the end of the bull cycle, mid to end. So if you're going to participate now, it's going to be a wild ride and anything can happen at any time. My best guess, Bitcoin could go all the way up to 100K in this year, easy. And the thing is, what do you want to do? Do you want to make money quick, buy today, sell by the end of the year? Perfect, that's great. But like I said before, you need to decide, are you a trader? Are you a long-term investor? Or you just want to be a self-sovereign individual? So that's your decision to make. Thank you for listening, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Emilianos. That was great. I bet many feel same way as me, enlightened. My only regret is that when 2013, a common friend, your father and I have, offered me Bitcoins, as many as I wanted, and I refused, and I kind of keep myself why I didn't do so. Well, thank you very, very much indeed. I thoroughly, and I'm sure I echo the sentiments of the audience, very much enjoyed that. Now we move to our second speaker, George Lambrinidis. George Lambrinidis is the co-founder and CEO of Node District, one of the fastest growing stealth mode tech startup in Cyprus that enables individuals, corporations and institutions to earn a yield on their crypto assets utilizing novel techniques. He has been awarded the Blockchain Innovation Award for triggering smart contracts without the use of the internet, recognized by the Central Bank of Lithuania as one of the top 8 teams on blockchain in Europe. George is also the creator of Block Stories, the first in the world workshop with a fully interactive gamification education program to teach teenagers and adults how blockchain technology works. During his free time, he participates in contests as a contestant or mentor all over Europe to promote decentralization and blockchain technology. George's personal mission in life is to use technology for good, to empower others to do better, be better, and live better. It always comes back to that. Mr. George, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Professor Farid. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for having me. Thank you for Top Genesis and Rotary Westphalia for organizing this virtual conference. And I would like to also say hi to my partner, Milianas. So basically, I'm an engineer. I've started in the blockchain space back in 2013 when I was doing my thesis on when I did electrocomputer engineering, on securing data on a bicycle helmet. And at that time, I got fascinated about the cryptography of Bitcoin, the decentralization, and all the technology about it. And I started investigating. And for the next 4 to 5 years, I spent my time going around the world educating people on the subject, and also show use cases, what you can do about it, what you can build, how you can transact on it. At the end of at the mid 2020, with my friends and longtime partners, engineers also, we were thinking, right, we are self-sovereign people, we are holding our crypto, what we do next, how we can go beyond that, how we can live from our crypto assets. Therefore, we started investigating and in different yield producing strategies. And eventually we identified that producing yield on a decentralized manner, it is very hard. There is a lot of technicalities that like supernova people can address, and also there is a lot of risk involved. So we were thinking, and with my friends, right? I mean, we did all these tours around the world. We did all these amazing things, showing people exactly how it works, make everything possible that is like considered impossible to do. So let's take it even further. So let's provide access to let's give access to or to the next 50, 100, and 1 billion people on utilizing this beauty of the new monetary system and generate passive wealth. So eventually what we did, we founded Node District, and the name is basically coming from the nodes that are running Bitcoin, as we love Bitcoin. And District comes from the variety strategies that people can utilize in order to generate yield. And it was a light bulb moment back in June 2020, and we started building it. Eventually, we've managed to build novel software that can produce yield for individuals, corporations, and financial institutions, that the rates are fixed on the terms and unbeatable. And the way we did that is basically partnering up with some of the greatest companies in the world, and also harvesting the power of the Bitcoin and other blockchain technologies. Eventually, we came down to, we started the company in June 2020. As my friend and long-term partner Miliana said, it's very difficult to start something in Cyprus. But we've chosen Cyprus in order to demonstrate that at the end of the day, that it's impossible. And we might be the first crypto company in Cyprus that is fully 100% self-sovereign company. We don't have bank accounts, we have been rejected multiple times, and we're not doing anything like premium activities or anything like that. So we're functioning fully based on our crypto assets. So basically, everything, all our revenue goes into a treasury that we are utilizing this treasury to pay all expenses and grow the company. Over the last 10 months, the company grew so big, as it was also by invitation only. We didn't promote to the world, and now we feel the need to share everything to the rest of the world. And right now we're planning for the public release of the product in order to allow people to earn yield. Even if you're a trader, you can use it to trade, and a very few simple steps. If you're a long-term holder, you can use it to generate interest rate on a yearly basis. And if you're a self-sovereign person, you can use it, or a self-sovereign company or institution, or you can still use it in order to generate yield at the same time. Some of the challenges that we came up for Cyprus is like when we had to choose the jurisdiction to move, we were thinking like, we thought about Switzerland, we thought about Cayman Islands, we thought about all of the possibilities, but eventually came down to our own core. If we want to see Cyprus to move forward and innovate, we have to take the risk and start something in Cyprus, and go and help all the regulators, banks, to actually understand the whole spectrum of this new monetary system of Bitcoin, the new supercomputer, which is Ethereum, and also the less volatile assets, the stablecoins. And by doing so, we can all innovate together. Now, eventually, it's coming down to a principle of doing good. And I always want to see our country move forward and be able to innovate. The market is so small right now. Still, it's so small after almost 10 years. We still have a great time to move and innovate. A few things that what you can do is basically on Node District, we offer what we call HODL accounts. And for those that they are not familiar with the term HODL, basically what happened in 2013, an intoxicated person on a forum titled his post, "I'm hodling," instead of I'm holding. And this was far from only the spelling error on the post that he did. Although it was just a spelling error at the time, HODL has become an ideology for many crypto investors in the post back then, which although the author rambled about how you cannot lose cryptocurrency to the market if you don't trade it. At the time, Bitcoin was traded only for $100. So investors took the advice back in 2013. They bought the Bitcoin on that 3-digit range, and they started posting around the internet, HODL their Bitcoin since then. And right now, each Bitcoin, these holders is owned like they own a lot more. So the narrative of hodling started from that, and we want to encourage people to hodl, and that's why we call the product of the interest rates hodl, because you're hodl until if you're a long-term person, you're hodling. If you're a self-serving person, you're hodling, and you generate interest. And you can use that interest for cash flow. You can use that interest to pay mortgages. You can use that interest to pay your rent. You can use to go and buy groceries. So there is a lot of usability on that. So why just holding and not producing interest as well on top of it? I believe I should move to the questions as we start having great questions. And here, I mean, Robin, your question is touching a very good point. What is the yield you offer on Bitcoin and ETH, and how does it compare to blockchain.com and Binance, for example? So there is a very crucial element here. When you register on blockchain.com and Binance, when you go to the earn and deposit your crypto, you're actually lending the crypto to that company. You're lending them to blockchain.com, you're lending them to Binance. Then those companies are responsible to go and find borrowers and strategies in order to lend them out again. Therefore, there is a risk involved that blockchain.com can go default, or the other companies can go default. And when you involve multiple hubs, that means you're increasing the risks. The yields that they offer also are floating, so it's variable. They depend on market conditions. They depend on how much borrowers do they have, how much do they request do they have, and also how big is the balance sheet of their Bitcoin in order to lend it out. So it's supply and demand. So if you have way too much supply and less demand from borrowers, they cannot give you bigger rates. Now, what we did in order to bypass all the risk is basically we went out there. We used our connections through the years of within our industry, and we went and found those borrowers directly. And what we did, we strike good partnerships with them. And now users can lend directly to the borrowers. There is no middleman, there's nothing else involved in between. There are no hidden fees, there's nothing. And the way we did that is through peer-to-peer lending. And the rates are fixed. They are not floating. They are not variable, depending on the market conditions. Right now, we have three programs, 3 months and 6 months and 12 months. On the Bitcoin, we give 5% on Bitcoin for the 3 months, on ETH 5%, and on stablecoin 6% on the 3-month program, HODL 3. The HODL 6 is 7% on Bitcoin, 7% on ETH, 8% on stablecoins, and on HODL 12, 10% on ETH, 10% on Bitcoin, and 10% on stablecoins. And those rates are fixed rates, are not floating. Dinger has asked, can you suggest some reading material for learning what blockchain actually is? Dinger, I will add my email, and please email me, and I will forward you the material myself to you in order to go along and start reading about it. And I'm happy that you want to start learning, because as soon as you start learning, you start using it, you cannot go back. Andy Saralambus said, how do you compare to Celsius product offering? Andy is exactly the same answer on as blockchain.com and Binance. Celsius, you lend your assets to Celsius, and Celsius is responsible to take action for your own assets. And also the rates are floating, variable depending on the market conditions. So today the Bitcoin is 4%, tomorrow that you're getting 2%, next day you might get 0.5%. You never know. Lazarus is asking us for the contact details. Lazarus, we're gonna give you all the contact details that is needed to contact all of us. I would like to also attend to a few of other questions that it was before. Here we have, let me go back. Andres Panagis asked how to choose the right retail platform for your personal crypto investing. It's always coming down to the due diligence. So you always need to go and read their terms on all sites and all the fine print letters, because it's there where you're gonna find the devil. The devil's in the detail. One thing that we did really well is to be as transparent, so transparent that you can make your decision straightforward. And other companies have been hiding behind their little fingers and try to address the problems that they had when they lent their other crypto assets with fundraisings or other methods, and they never mentioned that they had problems. So the best way to do is to try to learn everything about the particular company, and also read the terms and the fine print letters. And then you decide if you want to move forward or not. Janice, how do we keep informed? You can email us if you want to get informed with any questions that you may have later on, and also if you want to learn more about the yield, you can always visit nodedistrict.com/hodl. and you can request an invitation there, or you can read everything about it. We're getting a lot more questions about material to learn. I will do a list, and I'll give it to Top Kinesis in order to distribute an email to all attendees in order to learn about Bitcoin, about ETH, and blockchain, how everything works. So is stablecoin the same as altcoin? If so, as an example, someone has an altcoin that you hodl. However, this coin does 100x in 12 months. Do they receive the 100x or the 10% as agreed? So stablecoin is not the same as an altcoin. A stablecoin is basically a token that is pegged to $1. So let's say USDC. There are companies fully regulated that they're holding in their vaults dollars, which are audited. And for each $1 that they have, there is one USDC in circulation. And regarding your question about if you put in the hodl a Bitcoin, and the Bitcoin does 100x, that doesn't matter if it's 100x or 1000x or goes up and down. What you are getting, it's your principal and the interest on your principal. That means if you put 10 Bitcoin, you're gonna get 10 Bitcoin plus the 5% on Bitcoin. If you put 100 ETH, that means you're gonna get the 100 ETH plus the 5% on the 100 ETH. Therefore, if the price does 100x, that's good, because that extra 5% that you get is also that did 100x. And this is Andy Haralambos. Again, there's thank you for another question. Is there a minimum investment amount? As a private invitation, before we open to the public, there is a minimum of for participation of $25,000 worth of Bitcoin or Ethereum or stablecoin. And on stablecoins, we support USDC and USDT. So it depends on your preference. You can pick it and choose. Andreas Panagi, what is the most critical difference between investing in Bitcoin versus Bitcoin Cash? It's a great question, Andrea. Bitcoin Cash is a fork of Bitcoin with a few modifications on it. It has bigger blocks, and the transaction time is smaller. So it's a little bit more faster and a little bit cheaper to do the transaction. As a fundamental, is pretty much the same. But the critical difference for me, Bitcoin started the whole movement. Bitcoin is what is developing way faster. The Bitcoin developers are all scattered around the world. There's no one-man show behind it. So, and that one-man show can create price fluctuations or something like have a risk on the promotion, let's say, of that asset. It's way more decentralized. It's way more green and way more secure than the Bitcoin Cash, and it's been proven. All right, Marius Arigidis said a very good question. How to manage differences in supply and demand for crypto assets? Are there limits to the quantity that be placed with borrowers? Yes, Maria, that's a very good question. Each time that we go to, we partner up with the borrower, we always doing an extreme due diligence to them on their, we do the extreme due diligence on the business, on the financials, the audit financials, on the UBOs and all this. Plus, we ask them how much they can borrow, and each borrower has different scalability. Availability, and we always come into agreement on each threshold. But because we've been managed to partner up with multiple borrowers, then that allow us to be able to scale our offering from a few hundred Bitcoin. We can scale it all the way to thousands. Lazarus, that's not some question. Lazarus, do you believe Ethereum could efficiently solve gas fees problem? Well, that all comes down to the, there's two promises on Ethereum. First is the promise of the 2.0, that is transfer everything to proof of stake. That is promising that it's going to reduce the fees, but also the layer 2 solutions that if we take all the DEX and all the DeFi and transfer all of those into second layer solutions, then automatically Ethereum will become a lot more efficient in terms of fees, because the second layer solutions are going to use the security of Ethereum to work. Kevin Mad, what licensing do you have to solicit for retail or qualified investments, loans, deposits? Kevin, that's a very good question. The way we structure it is through promissory note, and the way it works, our company, No District, does not take any loan. The way that it works is that you lend your assets directly to the borrower. So let's say if the borrower is the fund of Emilianos, then you get connected to him directly and deposit there. So our company is only the software service provider. Now, what we are making sure is that we do all the due diligence necessary to qualify the borrowers. And there is a master loan agreement that we force the borrowers to sign. And in case of something happens, or some of the assets are backed by their own assets, or we have other measures that we can help people drive more safely. Neri, what is your view on non-fungible assets which are being traded currently at huge returns? Neri, I'm glad to tell you that me and my team were the first people to actually build non-fungible tokens, and that was 3 years ago with the Central Bank of Lithuania, when they wanted to create their own non-fungible asset, so NFT, to celebrate the 100 years of independence. So my view on the traded calendar, the huge returns, is basically whether you believe is worth it. If you believe it's worth it more than other person has paid for, then you buy it. And it's all about the demand and how unique is that fungible asset. So if you believe that it's worth a lot more than the current trading price, then you're gonna buy it more, bigger. And if another person still thinks it's undervalued and wants to buy it even on a premium price from you, then it drives the huge returns. So it's all about the perspective of the people. So if you think that that particular non-fungible token is worth a lot more, then you're gonna buy it. And then that way you're gonna is increasing the price with a huge returns. Okay, we start getting a lot of questions about NFTs. We will aggregate a few articles about NFTs that will address these answers, as is not within our topic range, but I'll be very happy to guide you through that. Okay, here from Adonis, instead of investing for a return in CeFi platform, what do you think of DeFi platforms? Adonis, I would say to, first of all, decentralized finance platforms, you need to do your due diligence because there is a lot of risk involved. And those risks are involved through exploiting the smart contracts that you can lose all the money that you put in. And we've been seeing that happening, especially from the end of 2020 to early 2021, over $300 million worth of $300 million worth of assets have been exploited by hackers of the smart contracts of the DeFi platforms, and people lost their money. So you need to investigate each DeFi platform that you want to participate. And if you feel confident to participate and you're aware of the risks, you can do it. On the CeFi platforms, the companies are taking more careful measures in order to treat the assets safely. And but always come down to your own personal view. Do we have time for other questions, or?
Yes, you have time for a few more questions. Yes, yes.
If your audience having more questions, feel free to ask. And in the meantime, I will highly recommend you to go to nodedistrict.com/hodl and start the journey of a long-term self-sovereign person that is going to be able to generate interest. Lazarus Omero, we lately see Elon Musk posting on Twitter and manipulating the whole market within seconds. How should all the reasonable investors and global crypto community react in order to, for such manipulations to be set aside? So that's a good question. I cannot give you a legal or personal advice, so this is like my own personal view. At the end of the day, you need to consider when you're participating in these small markets, why are you participating? If you're participating just to make money, then you should be aware for price manipulations from bigger boys. But eventually, what you have to think about first is why are you participating? And my personal opinion is if you want to participate in the Bitcoin market and Ethereum, then do it for the purposes that the Bitcoin and Ethereum serves, right? So Ethereum is the world's supercomputer that has been allowing people to transact and create programs that non-central authorities needed through their smart contracts. And Bitcoin is the new sound money and monetary system. So it's all up to you how you're going to pay the attention into those moves, and always have in mind those are big companies and they have their own reason to manipulate the market. I think if you have another question, guys, please let us know. We have a couple of minutes more to answer another one.
May I use my prerogative to ask as the moderator, how much Bitcoin, what is the total value worth of Bitcoin available right now in the world?
Right now, the total market cap of Bitcoin is over $1 trillion.
Over $1 trillion. And who can, or can anyone or anything produce more Bitcoin? Or is it a fixed supply? That's it.
There is a fixed supply of 21 million Bitcoins and cannot be changed. It's embedded into the code, which is public, which is open source, and anyone can review it. But no one can change the supply of Bitcoin.
So basically, you have a fixed supply and an increasing demand.
Yeah.
Okay. But there is no government that has officially transacted in Bitcoin or cryptocurrency. Is there any government?
I'm not aware about the government aspect, if they transacted in Bitcoin. If they did, that would be, they definitely haven't told, because if they said so, that means they start believing Bitcoin is a new money, and people are gonna go nuts.
May I ask, other cryptocurrencies, are they also fixed in supply, or they have a different way of about them?
Yeah, each crypto asset has its own dynamics. Some of them they have fixed supply. Some of them they have floating supply based on mining. But it all comes down to the fundamentals of that asset. So to answer your questions, they're both. There is still other currencies that they have limited supply, and other currencies that they have unlimited supply.
And are the biggest, I guess, the biggest adversary that cryptocurrencies have are the banks. Am I right?
Oh, there are the banks and the governments itself. Mm-hmm. Both are they need to start paying attention to it even closer, and start thinking how, instead of fighting those crypto assets, how they can actually utilize them in order to light the processes, make things go easier, and actually adapt the whole innovation of them.
But it is, I mean, if you really take off in a huge way, banks will become redundant. Am I right?
Yes. If they don't innovate, then eventually crypto assets can replace the whole banking system as we know it, and that's why we have a third category in the crypto assets, which is the self-sovereign people or the self-sovereign companies, which they don't rely on the on normal banking or financial system in order to operate.
Okay, I think there is another question by Kevin. Would you like to address that?
Yeah, Kevin just did a statement, a really good one. It says the Luxembourg regulator force, the CSS force, told to all of them to go out and experiment and buy Bitcoin. So this is exactly, I would suggest also, if you are not in the Bitcoin yet, go. You don't have to buy 1 or 2 Bitcoin. Go buy $10, 10 euros, right, worth of Bitcoin, and try to use it. Spend it for a service. Send it to a friend in Africa, for example, and see that the ability of transact cross borders becomes obsolete. There is no restrictions of doing it. Try to hold it and see what's going to happen, or try to trade it if you want to go more aggressive to it. So I would highly suggest to people try to get on their hands a few euros, 100 euros of Bitcoin, and try to use it, experience it, because at the end of the day, it all comes down to the experience. If you don't get it in your hands and use it, then you're never going to understand it. Whatever article you're going to read, how many videos are you going to hear, how many conferences are going to go, you're not going to get it at the end. If you don't use it, you're not going to get it. So I highly recommend to people to at least try. You have nothing to lose.
A final point before we close. So just repeat, you said you believe Bitcoin may go up to 100,000 this year, by the end of this year.
Yes, this is it's a cycle, right? And this cycle, as Emilianos mentioned, is right on the middle to the end. One of the reasons that we believe that we can see the Bitcoin up there is because of the huge institutional demand that is happening. Even when the Bitcoin goes down in value like 10-20%, huge institutions are not scared. They go and buy more in order to add them in the balance sheet. So the supply available to buy Bitcoin is reducing drastically. That means more demand, less supply equals skyrocketing prices.
May I ask Emilianos if does he share your view of Bitcoin going that far before the end of the year or by the end of the year? Emilianos, you are muted. Can you unmute yourself briefly?
Sure. Yeah, I also believe that there's a very good chance of prices going higher and higher, and even surpassing 100K to 200K. But everyone needs to be very, very careful, because at that point, everything will be extremely volatile. It could be that we hit 200K for a few hours and then go back to 150K, 100K. So like George said, if you're looking at this like an institutional company or somebody with a long-term horizon, then it's a different story. If you're just trying to get in and out very quickly, you might be at the losing end. So you need to be very careful.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lambrinidis and Mr. Elinas. I would like to thank both of our speakers for the very instructive talk and the audience for their incisive questions and comments. We shall strive to continue in the tradition of presenting you with high caliber speakers with the topics of great interest. Before we leave, I'd like to draw your attention to a conference next week arranged by Rotaractors on the 22nd of May, Saturday, at 3:30 in the afternoon. This is organized by Rotaractors. It's the Medicon Peace Conference. I shall be speaking, so I'm beating my own drum as well, probably. I shall be speaking at that conference, and it will be broadcast live on Facebook. And please try to join us there as well. Another thing is that there will be a video at the end. Please stay to see a very short video for that as well. Again, thanks Top Guinnesses, thank our speakers, thank the audience and everyone. And until next time, stay safe and keep well. A very good afternoon to you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Pop.
Thank you, everyone.